Hi everyone, I'm David Reeder, and we are Off Deck. Today on the show, we will bring in a U.S. Olympic gold medalist and probably one of the most interesting interviews in swimming, Tom Shields. Tom's had a long career in the sport, our high school swimmer of the year back in 2009, 5 individual NCAA titles at Cal, a relay gold medal at the Olympic Games in Rio, and he was a finalist in the 100 fly at that meet. Tom, thanks for joining us today. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Tom's actually in Huntington Beach, California. He went south, but he's back home due to the poor air quality in Northern California. So, explain to me, what's that been like dealing with a real natural disaster this past week or two?
Well, it hasn't been as hard for me as it has been for other people, so it's not that bad. It was just the air quality was kind of poor, and it kind of infected the indoor pools in the area too. So we kind of figured we'd come down here, and on my way down to Chula, I stopped at home for a little bit and started working out with Jerry Marshburn again at Los Cab, and Los Cab's open all day, so I decided to just stay here and work out on my own a little bit.
Yeah. Let's talk swimming a little bit. It wasn't the best summer for you long course, and you know that. You didn't make the World
Sure.
Championship team. How'd you
Yeah.
handle that?
I think it was good. I think it was good. It needed to happen.
Okay.
I wake up to a lot of things in my life that I was doing that was hurting me, and I think I kind of thought I was invincible after winning nationals by 100th and then making the Olympic team by 200ths, which is obviously like not the case. But because that kept happening, I just kind of was like, "Oh, I'll make the team again." And I think that attitude was not good, especially in the American butterfly community. You have to have that, really hungry attitude and keep growing as an athlete. I wasn't growing at all. I was lifting a lot, but I just wasn't. My head wasn't in the game, and my heart wasn't in it at all. And so now I'm a complete 180 from that. I'm kind of taking a lot of ownership for my career more than I ever have, and I think it's a very good step. And I did a complete camp by myself, July 15th through the first cluster, and train on my own here and there after that. And it's just kind of cool for me to kind of get some time to do what I want to do what I think I need. And I think it's really addressing my areas of development that I need to work on at this point in my career.
So is that it? It just the mental side wasn't there over the past year? Was that the big issue for you?
Yeah, probably that. And yeah, I guess you could call it mental, right? Spiritual. I didn't have ownership. I was kind of like just listening, going along with the group. And, obviously I'm not going to say anything against Cal. It's a great program, but it's like I wasn't getting ready for NCAA. So I was just kind of like doing whatever, and I wasn't really thinking about what I needed to be doing. And the stuff that I was doing that was extra wasn't helping me. Like I got into like this breath work, and I got into lifting really heavy and yoga and all this stuff. And I think all that stuff's great, but I wasn't swimming. I was just doing that stuff. And so I think now I'm swimming again, and I'm not just in the water going back and forth and kind of doing whatever. Like I'm swimming with intention, and I think that's what was missing more than anything.
Yeah. So you said at nationals you didn't make the final in the 200 fly. You said that the U.S. needed fresh blood in that event, and you like
Yeah,
this is that day. Why'd you say that?
Well, I really thought those guys were, all three of them, including Chase, those 154s were medal shots, and I probably wasn't this year. I missed the final at the Olympics, so that was probably the biggest embarrassment of my career. And so I just don't think, personally that I was like, oh, rats about the 200. It's like, no, like you got to give these guys their due. They worked their asses off this year, and also, I think Michael's the only medal we have had in that since 2000, if I'm not mistaken. And I apologize if I am. No,
It's been a
Tyler.
while. It's been a while.
Yeah. So outside of those two guys, it was just kind of like I think it was good from outside my personal goals perspective. Like I said in the tweet, to think like, okay, we have two new guys, two new, fresh, like personal psychologies attacking this event.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good step for the country. Now, obviously, they didn't medal, but Jack finaled, and now we have that level of experience in the country, which I think is going to push us forward as a nation. And Chase is obviously super experienced, and he'll want to qualify, and he'll want to medal in that event. I think that's just going to make the event better moving forward in the quad. And I think that's what's important. Like, obviously, like, I want to pay my bills. I want to medal at Worlds. But at the end of the day, this is about Olympic medals. And I think if that's the focus, I think it was really good to have two fresh guys in that event.
So what was it like to follow what was going on at World Championships? See what Caleb was doing, seeing what the guys in the two fly were doing, some of your teammates, and not be there? Because you've been a part of it the past 3 years. So what did that feel like from your perspective?
Well, it's weird because, like, when you're in it, it's your world, right? So you think it's so important. And so I don't mean to, like, distance myself from it at all. Like, I definitely watched, but it was interesting to see, like, how much it didn't change the world. It's like, it's not war. It doesn't really matter. And I think that was really helpful for me to see. It's like, oh, yeah, like, it's just another week in August if you don't qualify. But that being said, it was kind of cool to be a fan again.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really gotten to sit back and watch since 2012, maybe 2013. Yeah, 2013. So not that long ago, but it's been a couple years, and it was kind of cool to sit back and watch these events and really look at what these guys are doing and be like, oh, okay, that's what I need to be working on. That's what this is. And like when you're in it, you're just kind of like looking at tweaks. Where it's like, okay, I'm looking at a year where I'm 157. Now, obviously, if I had a final shot, I'm a little bit of a night swimmer, obviously. So you think I could be a little bit faster than that. But, honest to goodness, my best time this year is 157. So, like, I'm kind of open to all suggestions at this point in that event is kind of my thought process. And so it was cool to watch the two fly, especially. And then the 100, it was really cool to watch Caleb put together, not probably, the best night of swimming in history. It was a very ridiculous night. And that's an event that I'm not shying away from, but I know we've talked about it in our community that my 100 comes from a good 200. Mm-hmm. So we're just back to training for the 200 instead of trying to train for both.
Interesting.
And that's always worked for me in my career. So, and if it doesn't, great. This two fly has been something I've half-assed or worked hard for a little bit and then kind of forgotten about. And it's like, I want to put a whole year in or more on the two fly. And so that's kind of what we're doing with the World Cups this year. Fortunately, for whatever reason, the FINA points this year is pretty feasible in the two fly, so that's been good to me. So it's been good. And, I think it was fun to watch Worlds. Talking to Cameron about that, because Cameron took this year off the 100 breast, and he was like, yeah, it was cool to just kind of sit back and watch it. And now his was by choice, obviously, but, whether it was by choice or forced, it was kind of cool to become a fan again of this sport. Anyway.
Sure. So you mentioned that you've been back and racing some of these World Cups and kind of using it as part of your reintroduction to the 200 fly per se. So what's it like? You're not someone who, yeah, sure, you have that one meet a year that you want to do well at, but you're someone who these other meets are important to you, these World Cups, these short course nationals. So why is that, and how is that important in the grand scheme of things, especially right now?
Well, I gotta pay rent.
Touche.
Yeah. There's that side of things, but then but there's always that side of things, right? Like, everyone's out for money. I think with the World Cups, because they post about all the money all the time, people think it's what it's about. Like, people are making money. They're making way more. So I don't get it. Like, a lot of people hate on it. Like, well, they're not swimming for the right reasons. And it's like, okay, I'm sorry. I need food, so I'm like, I'm not going to apologize for that. But at the end of the day, I think that for my development as a swimmer, I need to race all the time. If not all the time, I need to race well pretty often. And if you look at the top end athletes, they do that, whether they admit they rest or whether they rest or they don't, or whether they just think they're not resting and their coach rests them. I don't care. Like, the fact of the matter is the fastest people on the planet swim fast pretty much all the time. Mm-hmm. So whether they're just not overtraining, which is kind of something we're leaving in the past anyways. Like, you see that with Nathan, you see it with Caleb, you see it with Michael. You look back at his time, he was dropping, mid 155s, 156s in the spring throughout the meat of the peak of his 200 plus to 400 plus career, right? So it's like, okay, you got to be able to be within striking distance of your times. And so that's something that I think I'm going to try and take to long course. It's like, whatever I'm doing, it's not working. Like going 200, 201 in season. I think that's just a lack of concern, to be honest. Like, oh, I'll just drop time later. And I think that's just a poor psychology, poor preparation. And like, you can train hard, and as long as you're taking care of yourself, you'll swim fine. So, and that's what I do through this time of year. Like, I just put 54,000 in last week. This week will be pretty close to 60, if not more, through the meet. And so it's like I'm lifting 3 times a week. It doesn't seem like I'm rested, but then I'll go swim fast at the World Cup. And so it's like, why don't I have this approach throughout the spring? And that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to write down everything I'm doing right now. I'm like, why is this working versus long course? And I know in everyone's head, including yours probably, like, well, you're a short course swimmer. Fine, great. But how do I change that? How do I become a long course swimmer? You look at the season Chase had last year. It's like, okay, maybe if he had swam a little slower throughout the season, he would have swam better at the end of the year, but maybe not.
He swam pretty well.
He'd work, and swimming fast at the Grand Prix time and time again was what prepared him for Worlds. That's what the Japanese do. That's what the people do at Mare Nostrum. So, I don't know. It just makes sense.
Taking what he's doing this year in the fall and trying to translate that into the long course season. Very interesting. Speaking of short course a little bit, I remember last year at Winter Nationals when you broke 44 in the 100-yard fly. First person to do that. That was a big deal for you. Why? And where does that rank kind of for you of all you've done in your career, over the past decade or so? I mean, I know that's one of the things you really wanted to do before it was all said and done.
Yeah. I remember there was an interview of me. I don't think it was you guys. I apologize. It was your competitors who interviewed me. But I said, like, I really would have liked to go 43, but this meet's about scoring points, so I don't think I can do it at NCAAs. And I ended up not doing it my senior year. And I think I said something like, I want to make sure I'm the first guy to do it. So that's what that was about. I had been 48 short course meters, which is basically the same thing. And Chad's been 48.0. So, I mean, I kind of figured it was totally feasible. I had been like 44 mid, unshaved at a couple of dual meets just quietly before. So I was like, you know what, if I took this, put in a couple months and shaved, I bet you I could do it. And cut it real close. Started training in like October. But it worked out. And then we went to Worlds and had some fun there. So and to be honest with you, I think that was probably the most fun goal accomplishment I've had since winning my first NCAA title or breaking the national high school record. It's just those little things that don't necessarily like make the huge dividends or have huge consequences, but they're just fun, And I think that's where I find motivation for the sport. It's like, oh, look at this cool thing I did, and obviously, I'm sure that's the way Caleb feels about his 49, and he should, and I would feel the same way. But I haven't knocked on that door at all, long course, and so it's just cool to be, on the forefront of the sport in some way, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, for all the focus on long course because it's the Olympic course or whatever, I think any American swimmer can tell you yards always has a special place in their hearts, and you and I are no different there.
I'm not mean to crap on long course.
Yeah.
If I was pushing the door for 49 and was the first guy to get there, or the first guy to get there again, that would mean a lot to me, but I'm just not there. And so I'm there short course, and it's cool, and it was fun to be the first guy to do it, and that's something I'll always have with me. I knew that record was only going to last 3 months.
Yep.
It was just cool to get there, kind of like, oh, sweet, December's before March. It's all that was.
True. So changing gears just a little bit. One of the big stories in swimming this week is what's going on with Tony Irvin, who you train with at Cal, kneeling for the national anthem at a meet. Obviously, this has been a big deal in sports lately, mainly, in the NFL. What do you think about the anthem protest? Do you think it's something that's going to become a trend in swimming?
In swimming? Definitely not.
Okay. Why is that?
I don't think so. But I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm not going to kneel, and I don't think that's insensitive of me. They have a right to protest, whoever, wants to protest, but I don't think they realize that they have a right to tell other people how to interpret their protest. Like if and this is just my opinion, and I don't mean to be too controversial, but like if you kneel during an anthem and you say it's for police brutality or for institutional racism, which seems to be what they're predominantly about. Of course, no one's going to deny that those are problems, and of course, I don't think anyone's going to deny that exists even. But I think what people are having a problem with, and I grew up in the military community as well, and so I kind of have my finger on that, is that when you kneel to a flag like that, or you kneel during an anthem like that, you don't get a choice in what you're protesting, unfortunately. Um,
Interesting.
and I wish there was a more sensitive way to communicate that, and I hope that people don't crap all over me for that. But it's like people are going to interpret that you're protesting, like, their sons or their daughters or their wives or their husbands or their fathers or their mother's service. And there is no way around that. And you could be as well intentioned as you want about the subjugation of African Americans in this country, and you would be absolutely justified. It's just a total misconnection there, and I think that's so unfortunate, because I think that there's a lot of sympathy both directions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see those communities really clashing at heart. So it's totally unfortunate.
Just interesting that it has touched swimming, and I'll be interested to see if there's anything else. Like I said, I don't think I agree with you that I don't think it's going to be as common as it is in, say, the NFL, but it has touched swimming, and so now it's become an issue in our sport. And I mean, I guess suppose we get towards the Winter Olympics, we'll see some more of this, and we'll see, hey, where does it go? And I'll just be interested to see how it comes into more of the sports that don't have as much publicity as, say, the NFL. So.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, we have 4 years until it matters for us. 3 years until it matters for us, right? Like, really matters.
Yeah.
So that's just the nature of our game. Who knows? And I'm not saying that, Tony should or Tony shouldn't. And I hope nobody interpreted what I said that way. It's just like, I guess all I'm trying to say is that I see the emotions on both sides. And I will admit I see the emotions on the military side way more in my life. Yeah. And so if that was tone deaf of me to say, I apologize.
Fair enough. Oh, you're never one to say something that you don't believe, and we, of course, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Real quick, before we let you go, getting back to you, you're 26, you have an Olympic gold medal, you've set a ton of American records and NCAA records, maybe even some, I don't know if you set world records yet. What else is it that you want to accomplish, and where is the finish line?
I want a world record.
Okay.
That's not the finish line, but that's something that I like going 43, and like setting a national record or a national high school record before I was done in high school, or like getting NCAA titles or breaking an NCAA record, and like breaking an American record. Like, those were all very pet goals of mine. Where it was very hard for me to get behind being an Olympian or being an Olympic gold medalist, emotionally, just because it seemed so insurmountable and so that day driven. Whereas you get an opportunity to break a world record, every time you swim. Obviously that's not realistic, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There's no clock on that. Whereas the Olympics, it's very much how do you feel that day? And so it's a lot harder for me to get behind. And I got really, close, obviously. What was it? I forget if I was 6th, 7th, or 8th at the games. So it's man, maybe that is possible. And so that's something I'm trying to get behind more emotionally and more psychologically. But what keeps me in the fight every day is I know that a world record's absolutely possible, especially short course. But no, I mean that's the number one thing. I want to be the fastest person ever, at least for a day or a minute. That would mean the world to me.
Yeah.
Not that I don't appreciate my career and what I've had, and I tell my wife this all the time. It's in a lot of ways I've done everything that I ever thought I was ever capable of, and so at this point it's just all extra credit. And so it's hard to stay hungry for me personally. I came from here in this house, and I didn't come from a swimming background. All my friends were lifeguards. All my friends are in either. I have a friend who's in the Marine, and friends who's a Marine. Two friends who are Coast Guard lifeguards. 2 friends that are cops. That was kind of what I was destined to be, I guess. And I got this fortunate blessing to be a swimmer. But that's kind of the attitude I have, to be honest. And I try to be as hungry as I was when I was younger. But the only thing that's left that I feel I haven't done is a world record, and that's absolutely focused, to be honest with you.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Tom. We appreciate the honest insight as always. Tom's going to be swimming at the College Challenge this weekend in LA, and we're looking forward to seeing you down there. Thanks for joining us.
Yep, have a good one.
Yep, that's Tom Shields joining us today on Off Deck. Again, full coverage of the College Challenge with Tom this weekend on swimmingworld.com. That's our show for this week. I'm David Reeder. As always, wishing everyone a great week.